This is TIMS support video number 3. The intent of this video is to show you how to use some of the basic functions, such as measuring and doing some markup within the TIMS application. To get started, we'll go ahead and select the TIMS icon from the internal website, and we'll select Get Started in the bottom center of the page. We'll go ahead and exit out of the Find Location on Map box. We won't need it for this tutorial. The markup tool is the fifth icon in on the toolbar. It's shaped like a marker. Once you select that icon, a Draw and Measure box will appear. And I'll go through each of these icons in detail. But before we start, when you're doing markup on a map, it's very useful to be zoomed in to a closer extent that'll show you roads and features within the map. And also, it's a great idea to change the base map, change the transparency of the streets layer so that you're able to see the aerial view underneath. And we'll just zoom in a little closer. So we'll go ahead and start with the Draw Point tool. And when you select that tool, a few options appear. You're able to change the color, style, size, transparency, outline color, and width. So we'll change the color to yellow. We'll change the icon to an X. We'll change the size to 20. And we'll leave the transparency alone. But we'll make the icon color yellow, outline color yellow as well. And the width, the highest the width goes is up to 5, so we'll make it 5 as well. Now the show measurements in distance units will not be useful for this tool, but it will be useful for a few other tools within this tool. So we'll go over those as soon as we get to the other tools. So we click that icon again, and then we just select a point on the map that we like to mark. And the yellow X will appear. Now if we wanted to add a second point, we just click the icon again and select a point on the map. Now you have two separate points on the map, and you're able to use this information for showing a location on the map or showing distance between the map. Now speaking of distance between the points, that is, we'll go ahead and go to the Draw Line tool. This line tool has the similar options with changing the color. We'll go ahead and leave this one as black. We'll leave it as a solid line. You do have a few other options under that under the style option, but we'll leave it as solid. We'll leave the width as 5, and we'll leave the transparency at 100%. Now this is where show measurements comes in handy. You're able to check it or uncheck it, but for this option, if we wanted to show distance, it's useful to have it checked. So our distance units we'll use will be feet. And once we're ready to draw our line, we just click on that icon again, select in the center of the first X, and double click in the center of the second X. And as you can see, a foot measurement will appear. It says the length of this line is 2,817.76 feet. Now that's very useful in just showing distances, or if you're trying to give someone directions, showing a beginning point and an end point. And it's also very useful in case you needed to go to a location that requires many different turns and curvy roads, because then you're able to still measure the distance and with just two separate points. So let's try a second line. What if we wanted to take the long way to this second point? So start here, go back here, we'll go along this curvy road, and as you can see, the line doesn't end until you'll double click it. So this is very useful for curvy streets, because sometimes you'll have to select multiple points. You'll have to click multiple points just to align with the curvation of the road. Okay. And we end at the second point. Oh, don't forget to double click. And you'll see the length measurement is over 4,000 feet. So that's useful. And if you wanted to give someone two options of a way to get to a location, you'll just measure the lines with two separate directions, and they'll probably choose the one with the shortest amount of feet, or the shortest amount of distance. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the rectangle tool. This rectangle tool is very useful in drawing or highlighting an area that's shaped like a rectangle or a square. So let's go ahead and change the fill color of this one to a darker color. The fill color, the style is actually the fill color, so we'll use forward diagonal lines, and we'll increase the transparency so we're able to see it a little clearer. Outline color will stay black, and we'll just make the outline a little thicker. Now with this tool, you also have measurements. Area units will do square feet, and distance will do feet as well. So once we're ready to highlight a parcel or an area of land or road, we select that icon again, and we'll highlight this one. Select in the corner, keep holding, and let go once you get to the end of your location. Now if we zoom in, we see area measurements and perimeter measurements. But as we can also see, this rectangle does not highlight the area of the, oh, it looks like a parking lot. It doesn't highlight the area of the parking lot very well. So this is where the Draw Polygon tool will come in handy, but we'll get to that in just a moment after we go over the circle tool. So let's move, zoom out some. Now let's go right up here. Now the Draw Circle tool is very useful for analyzing possibly walking distances or impact areas, impact zones. So if we click on the Draw Circle icon, you'll see that the same options will appear. For this one, our fill color, we'll just make it an orange color, and we'll change it to backward diagonal. And we'll leave the rest of them the same. So sometimes when we're analyzing impact zones, miles are a useful tool. So let's see, if we wanted to click in the center of this major intersection and analyze how many people are impacted by this traffic light until the next major intersection, we just click in the center here and pull the circle out and let go once we're in the second major intersection. And as you can see, the distance between the first light and the second light is highlighted, and it shows all of the people, businesses and homes that'll be impacted by this light. So the area of this circle is 0.92 square miles, about 1 full mile. That'll be impacted by this light. So there are many different studies that can be analyzed with this type of circle drawing, but a lot of them are very useful for impact studies. Okay, so we'll get back to this Draw Polygon tool, and we'll zoom in closer to another area on the map. And we'll highlight this building. So for this, we'll change the color as well, fill color, and we'll change the style, and we'll go back to feet. And there are quite a few options. For land, acres are great to measure with. For roads, meters and kilometers are great as well. as well as miles, but we'll just use feet for this demonstration. So we'll click on that icon again, start in the top corner. And this draw polygon tool is very similar to the draw line tool because you can click once and that'll be a corner, but once you double click, the line will end. So we're just highlighting this building, and once we're finished, once we get to the last point, we double click and you see our measurements appear. So this is a fairly large building that was easier to draw or to highlight with the draw polygon tool, even though it looks like a perfect rectangle, but it's not on a perfect 90-degree angle like the draw rectangle tool is shown. So sometimes the draw rectangle tool is only useful for buildings or smaller buildings or anything just to highlight an area that isn't at an angle and that has perfect measurements, such as a square and rectangle measurements, that is. But this draw polygon will draw rectangles, it'll draw plenty of different shapes. And with this, you're also able to highlight each of these polygons, rectangles, circle, lines. You're able to highlight these, each of them with text. So we'll go ahead and click on the A icon, which is a text icon. And let's highlight that first rectangle we drew. We'll name it parking lot. And with this, you're able to change the font of the text, the color, and the size. Now, show measurements and distance units won't be useful for this icon either. And we'll make it bold and underline. And just click there on the map. And sometimes you'll notice that the text isn't very easy to see. So this is where we go back to base map and change the transparency so that you're able to see the text a lot clearer. Okay, and we can go ahead and label the circle. Change the font and the color. And now we'll just go back here to our first drawing of a distance measurement. So we'll label the first X as begin. We'll leave it as black, and we'll change the font as well. Select that icon again, and select close to the X. Now the second one we'll label as end. And this is useful for just in case when we have the option of showing a second route to get to the end location, you're able to understand that this is where you begin and this is where you end. Regardless of how many turns and curves you'll take, you'll always begin and end at the same location as long as you have it listed on the map. So it's clear for other people to understand. And that was the Draw Text tool. And once you're finished with markup and measuring, you just go ahead and click Clear Drawings. And this icon or this message, Clear Drawings, will be the same under each icon. So when you select Clear Drawings, it doesn't only clear what you just done, it clears the entire drawing. So be careful not to choose that option until you're sure that you want to clear the entire drawing. Okay, and I'd like to go ahead and end the video here. And I hope you found this tutorial to be useful for your purposes. And as always, we encourage you to continue to explore and play around with different tools to build familiarity with the application. And if you need any further assistance, please give the Ohio Department of Transportation Office of Technical Services a call at 614-433-6438. Thank you for watching, and you have a great day.